You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 243. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram. Co-hosting with me, as usual, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. John's away this week, but hopefully we'll have him back soon. All right, off the top today, I first saw this news when you sent it to us, Hyung, and then it was all over social media, but it was about the stolen Shohei Ohtani Bowman Chrome rookie autograph cards, one of them being a gold refractor, another being a blue, so super high end. It was shipped via FedEx, and in that same package, there was supposed to also be a Mookie Betts and Tatis Jr. first Bowman Chrome rookie autos, also colored, so low serial numbered. The collector who bought and received the alleged tampered FedEx package is said to be Kelvin Z, aka at Luka Doncic PC, who is a high-end collector if you've seen his social media channel. So yeah, first, hope Kelvin gets his cards back somehow. But man, that's sad and scary at the same time for those who like to buy and sell high-end cards, right?
Always, man. That's I guess a nightmare for all collectors. That's their number one worry when they do come into this hobby is like, what happens if someone steals it during transit? Yep. And these cards aren't, they're very valuable. So I remember when, I was shipping a lot of cards out, and a lot of them were high end, some like mostly 4-figure, I would say, cards, but I was shipping it on the daily. And it got to a point where, I was always concerned at the beginning. And then, I've done over probably 1,000 transactions over the last, 2-3 years or whatever it is. And, knock on wood, I've been pretty blessed with like all of that. So I always hear the nightmare stories, but I've never personally experienced that. I had one bad, I would say, eBay incident that was rectified right away. But other than that, like I've never personally experienced it, but this is always in the back of the mind as a high-end collector or a collector in general is, what is there to protect us from, it's internal FedEx job, obviously, which is scary because it's a global brand, right? It's a brand that's partnered up with PSA. So I'm assuming, I don't know were these going to PSA or because they're BGS slabs, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. But usually PSA and FedEx have a partnership with that. So a lot of these guys knowing where the destination is, it could be really, scary because people know that, high-end cards are shipped every day and vice versa. I don't think Topps or any, PSA should label them when they send it back that it's from Topps or PSA, because I think that was the other issue was the labeling. But yeah, this is just a tragic story. I hope that it gets rectified and the owner gets his cards back and more, because it's a slimy move. It's serial numbered, so I don't get where you're going to sell it unless you're pulling off some Ocean's 11, like you're putting it in a safe box and it's gone overseas and won't be seen for the next 10 years. But I just don't get it. Yeah. Yeah,
no, it's, you mentioned a lot there, and I'm glad you first mentioned about, your own experience, because that definitely puts things into perspective, right? It's like, I equate it to like, whenever you see, news of any kind of crime, you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
You see a shooting, you're like, Toronto's a very dangerous city, but for the most part, it's pretty safe.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about going outside and like, looking over your shoulder. But obviously that kind of news always gets the headlines, always gets the attention, right? So same thing with this, like it's obviously a nightmare scenario. And you're right, when I first started to ship even like cards that are a few hundred. That was a lot to me. You know what I mean? And then I would like confide in you. I'm like, hey, what's the best thing to do? And then you're, in a weird way, knowing that you're shipping cars worth over 1,000 and there's been no issues. I'm like, okay, that's probably fine. So and now like obviously since then I've been shipping a few cards that are much higher value, and there's only so much you can do, right? That's the scary part. Like you can do your due diligence, you could do your first overnight, and that's why also I want to talk about. Like I've been reading some of the comments on social media about this, and a bunch of people are saying, oh, he should have probably flown out to receive the package in person or to send it in person. And first, if you're blaming the guy, that's kind of ridiculous, because the blame should really go to FedEx, and there should be more security protocols, right? It's not his fault that the cards got stolen. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. And then I think he did mention that he did send it first overnight, which usually is the move, right? You don't want to like...
Yeah, I usually send it overnight, and there's usually no issues. It's trackable. It's like, it's just one night. So it's not like sitting in a warehouse. You know that it's constantly moving. So you trust that service that FedEx provides is adequate. There shouldn't be any, second blame saying, well, he should have flew out. And there's argument there, but that's not the root of the cause.
Yes,
you know what I mean? That's not the issue at hand here.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess that leads to the next question. If not everyone could fly out on a whim, right? They got lives and things like that too. It's not just about the money. But is there anything that can be done to like make sure, or to at least increase your odds that the cards reach its destination safely? Because some people will say, do you really need to write the value? That's a high risk game too, right? Like, it's valued at 10. Well, what's the estimated value of that lot that got stolen?
That's probably like six figures, I would think, because there was some colored Otani Bowman Chromes. Those have been selling for. I think there was a gold, so that alone I think is pushing that probably six figure mark now because of that orange $200,000 private sale. So I would imagine that thing is like. That's what I was saying. I brought back Ocean's 11 or whatever that movie was where they steal art, but that's what you're stealing. It's like grand larceny. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that these guys are stealing. But I think I think there has to be an offering for like high end stuff. Like that's what boggled my mind is it's like, I can't even put the right value because there's a chance of theft, for instance, internal. But then, but then rightfully in a business sense, if I'm shipping out, I don't care if it's $1 million item, I need that insured.
Yes, right.
As a business, like, you know what I mean? It's not about lying. It's like, I need that amount insured. So there has to be some type of insurance that needs to be, common to the public, especially in the sports cards and memorabilia. And that way it deals with theft, and they could deal with it and maybe, do a better job policing that and collecting their losses from that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the situation we're in now, right? Like there isn't anything like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know who can do anything about it. Like hopefully the industry grows to a point where there's a demand like, hey, we're not shipping anything out unless this is rectified or this is addressed, and I don't know if it's like if it's like PSA or if it's eBay, like I feel like it has to come from one of those guys to really push the envelope there. Yeah. Otherwise, like, is FedEx going to do it on their own accord? Probably not.
I mean, if you think about it though, like this is how many transactions now in the hobby that people ship out. There's on the daily, this is a new kind of revenue stream for guys like FedEx. So if I'm FedEx, I'm pushing this envelope and offering a lot more services and doing a better job, also. Like as a global, logistics, shipping, freight, company, you gotta do everything to protect your clientele, and I think internally they have to, create policies where they are able to deliver. And I personally use DHL, for a lot of my transactions, especially from Toronto to the US. It's been an amazing service. Everybody's been happy with the service. I use it internationally, globally, from my business anyway. So I've always been comfortable with the AHL and never really had an issue. Mm-hmm. And it was a little more expensive. I remember when I was sending cards out from Toronto to the US, you insure it for, $1,000, $2,000. It's going to cost you about, $30 to $50 Canadian. And for me, it's totally worth it because at the end of the day, even if I'm selling or sending, like, let's just say a $5,000 card, and I insure it, and it's costing me $50, I think that justifies it. I think a lot of people are dealing with, lower end cards that don't justify that expensive shipping send. But if you're selling $1,000 cards, like $50,000, $100,000 card, that's where I think there's a gap and there's no service that's kind of offered. But DHL for me has been great personally.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe that's what it takes, competition in that sense.
Right.
You're like, oh wow, people are going to another provider because they can offer more of peace of mind when I ship this, right?
But I hear nightmares. I hear nightmares from USPS, UPS, right, and FedEx. So between those three, I've heard equal amounts of kind of like, I guess, horror stories. So it's just a matter of one of them taking it seriously and seeing how much revenue potential is in this marketplace and offering a better service that other people have the confidence in them to protect their shipments.
For sure. I mean, it'll definitely make me think twice. When I had the Aaron Judge Bowman Chrome refractor auto and I shipped it to Goldin for auction.
Right.
Like I was pretty nervous. I was sweating it.
I don't blame you.
And I did it through FedEx.
Yeah.
First overnight, and then I'm recording everything. I don't even know if that would help if it did get stolen, like documenting this. But I'm just doing it just in case. But
I think it's good practice, Clark, because for me, just knowing how this world operates, there's always a potential to, if that did happen, let's just say you recorded it all and it was FedEx's fault and they're not giving you the money. You could get that money back by law. Like, it's just get a lawyer, you have all the documented process and then settle for whatever value you think. And I bet you they have lawyers waiting. They just don't basically push that because it costs them obviously a lot of money and those that kind of seek those damages. But for me, if I'm dealing in that, anything over, like, I would say, 4 figures, I would say 5 figures amount. Yeah, there's definitely, lawyers involved for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, all that being said, if I had that kind of lot that got stolen, I would have probably flown.
Yes, definitely. It's a perfect justifiable trip to, just go fly out
to wherever. Exactly. But oh man, that's a horror story, that's for sure, and hopefully it gets rectified. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. All right, it's another week and another piece of news regarding Fanatics Topps, right? It's a common theme these days, but the Topps Now card of the LeBron, KD, Steph Curry 1/1 non-autograph card sold for around $53,000 on auction. As I recapped in Friday's episode, the autograph version has yet to surface as of this recording, so the chase is still on for that. But that's what I wanted to talk about, and dig into a little deeper. The whole Topps Now, how it's evolved from what it was, right? More specifically, this relatively new way of issuing Topps Now cards, which is to give collectors a chance to buy these base cards for a limited time, commemorating, whatever key sports moment that just occurred. And it's usually around $10 each, but then adding a randomly inserted high value card, right? Or cards, usually an on-card autograph on a low serial numbered parallel card as the chase card, right? So for additional context, for people that don't know, Topps Now used to offer the same low numbered autograph parallel cards of key sports moments before, but not as a chase. You could buy it straight out on their website for a set amount. If you remember, it wasn't that long ago, but it seems like a long time. And for example, you could have gotten an autographed gold parallel Topps Now card for $1,000 right off the Topps website, right? Problem with that, of course, is that it's sold out pretty quickly. Like, it was a matter of like clicking as fast as you can and hopefully you got through. So going back to how it is now, this element of gambling, of going after the chase card from a business standpoint, it seems to be working great for Topps. So my first question is, do you think this evolution of Topps Now is going to be the way it is for the foreseeable future?
Yes, I think so. I think it proves that how much, gambling is intertwined with kind of like our culture, because it shows you that demand is a lot crazier right now. And a lot of people prefer that, if I'm buying a card and I have a chance to win, I'd rather have that than trying to bid or trying to buy it straight out where I don't have $1,000 to shell out, right? But I want to participate in this. So it's almost like a lotto, but you got to remember, a lotto is one in millions potentially. And for this still, I think the odds are great, comparatively to if you just compare it to a lotto,
state
winning,
lotto,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like a state, and obviously the amounts are different, but I think that's part of the hobby. Is when we do rip, it's no different than us hoping to win a lotto. We're going against the odds, and everybody's witnessed this. Is when I rip, everybody's saying, "Oh, it's not worth it." Yeah, no crap, it's not worth it. That's the whole point. That's why ripping is so addictive. But that's part of the hobby, and then you add breakers in it where you're buying into a team break on a case. I don't necessarily think that's bad, because sometimes I can't shell out the money, let's just say, for a whole case, but there's one player in particular that I want to chase, and I don't mind taking the risk of ripping. So it's that whole, I think, gambling aspect that has been seen in a negative way, I guess, in our hobby.
Yeah.
But it's always been a part of our hobby. And that's honestly kind of what makes this hobby, I guess, what it is, right? So, yeah.
You know what? I totally agree with you. And I'm glad you brought that up, because, everyone is entitled to their opinion, right? I don't get bothered by that. But there are people that really dislike this whole element of gambling in Topps Now because it's so overt now. You know what I mean? It's so obvious. But to your point, a lot of people are buying boxes or even buying into breaks for cases for that element of gambling. That's what makes it exciting for them. I don't know a lot of people that just buy a box to try to complete sets anymore, because it's price prohibitive, and not a lot of set collectors out there that I know of. People are trying to get the hit, and that's what, drives a lot of business in the hobby. So I agree with you, but like, just, going back to the gambling element, like, there are definitely people that have really big concerns with it, and if you see it more big picture, and not that this is going to happen, but I'm wondering if it's going to be an issue down the road. Like, will people start to say this is just an unregulated form of gambling, and will Topps be forced at some point to change the current Topps Now model? Do you think that'll ever happen? Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of happened with fantasy sports and fantasy sports betting. They're like, okay, you just can't do anything you want. We got to put some rules in place.
Right. And I think that's fine. I think that's the evolution of anything that is good at the end of the day, right? If you believe in a marketplace or you believe in a certain thing, and you have to go through kind of like the dark side, the negative side, even this whole, the previous session we talked about on the cards that were stolen, if that's where we have to go in order to get to where we need to be, then I'm okay with that, as long as we're stepping in the right direction and learning from it, right? And that's the whole point of growing as a hobby. It's some things will work, some things won't work. And there's fair points and valid points for, well, if it's a kids, we're trying to get more kids involved in the hobby. Is this something that we want to present to them as that? But I think it's all perspective based, because then you could argue, well, is it gambling? I love to rip with my son, and he loves it too. And you don't necessarily call it gambling. You could call it, spending time with your kid and, enjoying the hobby for what it is. There's so many gray areas that you can't just say it's, black and white here, but then you're going to contradict yourself because everything you're doing, even buying singles, is a gamble at the end of the day. So for me, it's all about policing yourself within each individual and make smart choices, educate yourself, and be self-accountable for what you feel is right and wrong on your barometer of moral compass, right? So for me, that's why I enjoy the hobby, is because, like you said, other people, I could care less what they think about the hobby if they disagree or agree with me. I'm not here to agree. I don't do this podcast to agree with people. I just show up. I enjoy the hobby for what I do. I give my 2 cents, and I love it because external people really don't dictate how I do the hobby, right? So for me, I think it's just an evolutional thing. Yeah. And I'm always for it. Of course, there needs to be things in place that eventually will get us there, but we're not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's kind of what I was mentioning too, right? I think there's a lot of parallels between what's happening now in the hobby regarding this specific issue and daily sports betting, right? There was an evolution of where it is now, and it's, I guess some people can argue, but I would say that it's much safer to bet on daily sports, and there's some regulation is good just to keep some people safe, and then there's not going to be a ban on sports betting. It's a big part of the economy now, right? And I think the same will go with how the hobby will eventually grow. And some people won't like it, but to your point, the hobby is big enough for all different types of collectors. You don't have to get involved in this part of the hobby, right? I feel like some people are so fixed on, I don't want to see any of this in the hobby, but you're
not going to change it.
You're not going to change it. And for others, they don't want to see your part of the hobby as much.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
There's, who's right, who's wrong. It's not like that, and kind of what you're saying. It's not black and white. We are in this gray area too sometimes. Or, you could just ignore the parts you don't like and just dig deeper into the parts that you do like. I just said, a hobby is big enough for everyone. So I think that's what I'm hoping people will consider when they even watch like social media content, hobby content. There are louder voices than others. Take it for what it's worth, but don't get too riled up on something that you might not agree with, right? Even if you don't agree with us right now, don't get too riled up. We're just fine.
You know what my answer is? Start a podcast and voice your opinion so that you have an avenue where you could shout it out, right?
100% agree. 100% agree. All right. I had another question. What do you think could be the next evolution of Topps now? So we both agree that this is like the foreseeable future because money talks. As long as the money's coming in, Topps now has no reason to change it. But you can always make things better. I think a year ago or 2 years ago, this is what we talked about when Fanatics was acquiring Topps. This is what I personally look forward to. I think moments in history, Topps and Panini have tried to do it, but I don't think they've really captured it the way the potential is. So I love, what Fanatics is doing with like the Ohtani 50-50, like that Topps Dynasty Black is an unbelievable card. And that's exactly what we said would literally make the Topps Now brand a thing. And they, like I said, they're doing it multiple times with, Team USA, now Ohtani. It works.
And it's crazy. It is nuts. And for me, what I would like to see, because people are paying such a high price for individual cards, they need to really make this a better brand, like in terms of what you're getting for a base card. Because at the end of the day, we are paying full pop with the chance of hitting these cards. But at the end of the day, we have to, as consumers, understand, are we paying $11 a card?
Right.
And what are we getting in return, especially if they're printing, 600,000 of these cards, right? So I would like to see Topps and Fanatics reinvesting that in the Topps Now brand. So make memorabilia more available. Like there's so much, you guys have so much memorabilia just from the Fanatics brand and these one-time projects. So you do the quick math. If they're averaging $10, let's just say for that Ohtani card, and they sold 650,000 cards, just on that project alone, they're bringing in whatever $6 million in that right now, that one day of sales that they did. So it's like, I know that you don't have that MLB tag at the back of Ohtani's didn't cost nowhere near, even like $50 of cost of actual raw costs that it's actually costing them. So it's like, let's invest that in user experience, because Topps Now, that's the whole point. It's like you are there right now and you're experiencing the memory, and within that card, you have something to take back with you because that was a special moment in history, right? In the sporting world, whatever it is, right? So I would like them to up their game on the Topps Now brand and make it a better card so that it reflects the $10 justification per card. Otherwise, make it $3 if you're going to make it like a paper cheap. And they've done a good job. Some of the cards that have come out, it's like, whoa, this is actually a nice, it's a lot better, but I would say it's like 7 out of 10. I would like to see it like, wow, at least this is a really nice card. And then with the hopes, the parallels become really nice as well with good memorabilia options to pull.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say it's a 7 out of 10 because it's all relative at the end of the day, right? Like how Topps Now base cards used to be. It's like I could have printed that off on my own printer.
Right, exactly.
and now it's like, oh wow, it's got a nice gloss to it. You see the Topps logo throughout, and so it's all relative. You're like, okay, this is way better, but it could definitely be improved on, to your point, So as you were talking, like just we could have just done a just a thought segment, right? It's like, maybe add more relic cards. I know relic cards aren't worth much, but if you design it well, like I'm sure that'll be people will be glad to get additional chase cards, and definitely not as worth the big chase cards of the 1-of-1s or even the lower parallel. But you can have non-numbered relic cards inserted, except instead of just base cards for everyone, right? Just have a little bit more of a chase element. And
going back to it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be relic, because in this process, I don't mind redemptions in the sense, not the cards, but like I said, what if you won an Ohtani bobblehead? Like from that 50-50, right? And then it's just a redemption process of, they'll do 500 redemptions within, or 1,000 redemptions, and there are a bunch of pool of, anywhere from $5 to, $1,000 prizes where it's not a card. It's more from the memorabilia side or experience side, where, now it's like, okay, the experience is way better. We're not just gambling. At least there's chances to win consolation prizes that, I'm happy with my $11 purchase now, right? Yeah. So
no, that's funny because I have that as one of my notes. Not just the 1-of-1 cards, but you can win an experience or memorabilia, or redeem it for something like that. Yeah. So
I'll add one more thing, Clark. This is where I really see, like stuff like, and I know people are going to be like, what are you talking about? But the way I see it is, this is where blockchain will start fitting in really nice, right? So we won't talk about that because I still believe, in crypto. I believe in the utilities that comes with some of the cryptos that are out there, but I think blockchain is the future, even to collecting. I think there's going to be elements of that. Just like we said, even the stolen stuff that we talked about earlier, can blockchain now rectify a lot of these issues with, stolen merchandise, right? Yeah. So I think we're just at the beginning parts of where this collecting experience is going. For sure. And just be open-minded, I guess, to everything, because what we used to do everybody wants to go back to junk wax era. I don't want to go back to the junk wax era. There's no joy in going back to the junk wax era and how it was before, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, another great point. Like, I think to add on to that, the technology element of it can really open up how Topps Now can evolve. You're right. And even, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but McDonald's, they're about to launch Monopoly again, right? And now it's like, everything's on the app. Everything's digital. Remember you had to collect those stickers, and
Yes.
I would lose those stickers. I have doubles of, triples of things. I'm like, oh, where's that sticker? And not that I was gonna win, but at least on the app you can keep track, and the prizes you can redeem them much easier than
There's
than
always
before.
that boardwalk. You're just looking for that boardwalk.
Yeah, boardwalk. Yeah, but yeah. Now you just technology, things on the phone, digital, all that makes the opportunities even more endless in a way, right? So I agree with you there. But if we're gonna take little steps, that's if we see that as the big picture or the future. Another idea of what they could do in the meantime, I guess, is how about doing something like those buybacks? You know how Topps Chrome MVP buybacks, like, oh, what are you gonna do with all these cards?
Right.
You could kind of implement that with Topps now, you know what I mean? Because they're, especially for the Olympic cards where there's 600,000 plus, or was that the Shohei cards? Whatever the cards they mass produce.
Yeah, I think they're both. Yeah,
over 500,000, right? So
that's
like
crazy.
You could do something with that, like, hey, you bring 10, 20, 100 of those back to us. We'll work with the local card shop. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's opportunities.
I like that. And then I truly believe Topps should destroy those cards that they collect, like a majority of them, because now what you create is the true scarcity of certain cards, because people are reclaiming that, right? And that's what the MVP season, I say, it's like a lot of people, everybody in their right mind who had Ohtani cards or Acuna cards in the MVP buyback, they're sending it in.
Yeah.
So that creates enormous value for that card, because now it's a numbered card. Some people held it, which I think is a smart long-term move, but majority of them submitted it, and Topps have all the stock, probably 95% of the stock. So if they eliminated the 95%, kept the numbered cards on the MVP buybacks the following year, right? Now you're talking about an MVP card that's going to age really well, that has a super, super, super low pop. So it could be the same thing where people redeem it, and then you destroy all of it, whatever was redeemed, whatever's out there is the pop count now. And then you create more of a demand in the future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it will even work better with the Topps Now card, because at least with the Topps, with the Topps Now, you kind of know the print run. Like that's advertised. Exactly. Whereas Topps Chrome, it could be 1 billion, and you can submit as much as you want, but there's still tens of million out there, right? So, unless it's numbered, but at least with the Topps Now, you already know what the print run is right from the start, and it's not, at least right now, none of it has crossed the 1 million threshold, but so yeah, it could be definitely more valuable that way. And how about if you get, I think they've done this already, but Topps, with some of the buybacks, they've reissued it as a, like, what do you call those? Like, they have the athlete sign it and then repack it. What do you call those?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like a buyback, but yeah, they, you could get it as a hit in the future.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I you see that happening a lot right now, and people are pumped because it's a card that they weren't expecting, but it's like, what's this Bobby? I've seen a Bobby Witt All-American, Under Armour All-American, like 2018 card, pulled recently in a 2024 Chrome, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Just to close off this segment, on a related note, you already brought this up, but it's not really a Topps Now thing, but it does capture a moment in sports history. Your thoughts on the Shohei 50-50 limited set with the 3 big chase cards in it?
It's crazy, and I would say they're definitely milking it, every single penny out of this whole event. But it is a pretty big event, I would say. Like, it's what I'm having a blast witnessing it. I'm watching playoff baseball now. Seeing Ohtani, the following Ohtani has, and the demand's there at the end of the day. So you gotta go with the demand, and it's not. I mean, if I'm running Fanatics, that's my sole purpose, is to, keep up with the demand, capitalize on massive, massive sports moments that, are happening, because that's the part of collecting. Like, I think it goes hand in hand so well. So I'm expecting that Fanatics would milk it, which they have. It's going to be interesting. Is the Dynasty Black coming out of that 50-50?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. And they've done it the right way. So, because the question was, how are these going to be distributed in packs?
Right.
Right. And then it wouldn't make sense to randomly put that in like 2025 Bowman, for instance. Right. Yeah. So it encourages people to buy at retail. And I think that's what Fanatics is doing. They don't want people to buy secondary market. Fanatics needs to be the initial moneymaker, right? Because I always wondered, I'm like, Topps, before pre-Fanatics, like, damn, Topps is missing out on secondary market so much. But then I think Fanatics is capturing a lot of that secondary market by releasing these products and these huge chases that allow them to make the massive revenue that they want to. And then in return, it provides a better experience for the end user.
Yeah, totally agree. And I picked up a box myself, so fingers crossed.
Nice.
We'll see what happens.
Worst case, it's great content, right?
Yes, we always say that. It's one of the huge benefits of having a podcast, having your own social media channel, just to talk about the hobby for sure. I don't have much to add to that. The 50-50 is, if he only ended up with a 40-40, Topps would be doing the exact same thing. They just but they hit the jackpot gold with 50-50. It just sounds better.
It's huge.
And it's historic, even more historic, right? So, yeah, I'd be doing the same thing. All right, let's move on to our next segment we call Would You Rather? Okay, so it's kind of like our pick one. The more I prep for this, I'm like, oh, this is kind of a glorified pick one. But anyway, it's still fun to do. I'm going to give you two hobby scenarios or two cards, really. But you tell me which one would you rather pick, okay? So this first one, I don't know if you saw Geoff Wilson's video after the LeBron, KD, Curry non-autograph card got sold. Right. And it got sold. Was it on Goldin? It was on one of the auctions.
It was on Goldin, I think. Yeah.
So sold for just over $53,000, I believe. Right. That includes the buyer's premium. And Geoff Wilson came out saying, I guess people were like, mentioning how he lowballed the seller with his 25K offer. Yeah. So he justified it in his video, saying, "Hey, 53K, take away the buyer's premium. That's 44. You got to pay taxes on that because Goldin issues, the paperwork. So that could be a $23,000 value really for you in pocket, right? But if you took Geoff Wilson's offer, 25K cash, plus you get a first class ticket to Cards HQ. And, even with the 25K, so you should pay taxes on it, but will you if it's a hard cash offer, right? So would you rather take Geoff Wilson's 25K offer, or would you have sold it on auction for 53K with all the stipulations I just mentioned?
Well, yeah. Now you're starting to get into some gray areas, and it's funny because I see the comments, and there's stuff like the IRS is gonna have a field day here or whatever. But I'm going with the highest bidder.
Okay.
Yeah, like for me, then there's justifiable ways where if you're smart enough, then be able to purchase cards at that level at a higher price. Because I'm sure if a store purchased that, they ain't gonna take it personally. They're not gonna buy it personally. So it all depends on what and what rules you play by. So I'm gonna go with the higher bidder. So in this option, definitely Goldin. I'm taking the higher sale for sure.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. I guess it depends on whether you really find valuable the first class tickets to Cards HQ. Some people might, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they like that experience aspect of it as well. But yeah, I'm going with the 53K as well, because I don't know what the rules are exactly, but you could use that money to buy something off their website. So I don't know if you can, like for another auction.
Right.
Second, would you rather question? Would you rather have the Shohei Ohtani, let's say 2024 Topps Chrome, as an example, true gold card, numbered to 50, okay? Or would you want the Shohei Ohtani gold wave card, right? That's numbered to 50, obviously, as well, but it's the 50 of 50.
In 2024?
Yeah.
I seen that somebody pulled the gold sapphire 50-50.
Yes.
of 2024 Topps Chrome, and I love that card. I think it's such a cool card. I'm big
because
on
it's
that.
50-50?
Like, because it's 50-50. Like like that's insane. Like I remember, and people pay a premium for this. I'll tell you a story. I remember I was ripping 2020 Topps Chrome. And this was probably in 2022. So this was 2 years after. Nobody's ripping 2020 Topps Chrome. And the box was obviously a dud, but there was one pull that I pulled. It was Aaron Judge, image variation. And it was a green parallel. So it was numbered to 99. And I pulled the 99 of 99.
I've seen it.
And I got it graded by SGC. Mm-hmm. This card at the time probably was selling for like $25, $30. I sold that card for like $300, which is nice. Like people paid 10, 20x of what that card was actually worth. Now it's probably worth more because Judge is just being, but I think numbered cards that have significant meaning, like the 99 out of 99, such a cool card to a collector. 50-50 in the year Shohei 50-50. Bro, like you can't get a better card than that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Well, that's the easy one for you. You know, like, because I imagine that some might think, oh, this is a cheap gimmicky thing, 50-50, and then, you know, people are highlighting that. But you know what? Like you, I love it. I freaking love it. I'm going 50-50 all, and gold sapphire is different because, you know, that looks really nice. But even if it was a gold wave,
100%.
Yeah, 50-50, like, that outrides any other factor.
Yeah, especially like the whole true gold, true orange. I get it. I would take that over normally than a gold wave. But when we're talking 50-50, yeah, that's next level. The gold wave and gold doesn't matter in my opinion.
Okay, I'm gonna add a little thing. What's Shohei Ohtani's jersey number?
17.
Is it 17? Okay, so how about true gold 17 of 50 or the gold wave 50?
See that? Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
Let's up it. Yeah.
Yeah, now you're talking. Yeah, you know what's going on?
I'm going 50-50. This is for that year. I'm going 50-50. People might forget in a year or two, like, oh, that was the year. Yeah, that's the only issue. But I don't know. I'm a sucker for 50-50.
For any other year, I would pick jersey number because I do like jersey numbers. Yeah. But yeah, this doesn't come close still because the 50-50 in the year he 50-50, he may never 50-50 again. Right. Somebody might not 50-50 again. Right? Like this is first time in history for a reason. Mm-hmm. So it's like I will put my money on that rather than anything else.
Good point.
That it not happening, yeah.
Yeah. That's ironically that if he does 50-50 again, that might tank the value of the original.
Yeah, 50-50. Exactly.
So please don't 50-50 again.
Yeah.
All right. One more, just because we're having so much fun with Ohtani. Would you rather have the Logo Man autograph card, the Topps Dynasty, you know, the one we're just talking about from the 50-50 set, or I think you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going, yeah.
The first Bowman Superfractor autograph, the pitching one that was the card. Does that still hold your spot as number one, or does this Logo Man, MLB Logo Man, 1/1 autograph card take over now?
Here's what that 1/1 card has going for just
the Logo Man.
Why the Logo Man. This is why the Logo Man is a special card. One, it's a 50-50 from the game. Right. So massive. So absolutely like pivotal moment in history. The card itself is beautiful. Has, you know, it's autographed. It is a 1/1. Both are 1/1, but I would still choose the Bowman Superfractor.
Wow.
Over that. Yeah. Because one, I think his old auto will age well. And two, that is his number one and will always be his number one desired card. I don't care any manufactured Logo Man after that. That's not a 2018 card, right? We're still talking 2024 card. Mm-hmm. I do like that he has a Dodgers uniform on the Topps Dynasty Black, but You can't disrespect first Bowman. Like, I know it's not a first Bowman, but that's his first Bowman.
Right.
And
that's what I mean. Yeah.
the image is already so iconic. There's previous sales that support that this card is a 7-figure card. And the proof of the orange batting image that just sold for $200,000 on private auction on Goldin is proof that this card is a 7-figure card. And same with the other one. I think the other one's going to do well, but I knew that I had a feeling that this would have came up. So I knew that I would have picked the Superfractor for sure.
Yeah, no, great points you laid out for both. Yeah, I would probably go with the Bowman Superfractor as well.
Yeah.
So it has more meaning to me too, right? Like it's like for me personally, coincided with the time where it's like, wow, this is the card. I remember talking about it all the time.
Right.
You know, and so in addition to everything you just mentioned, I go with the Superfractor. But man, that Logo Man's going to be... They're both massive cards. They're both massive cards.
Yes.
Can't lose either way. All right. That ends our Would You Rather. And that's a good segue because it's similar to, like I said before, it's similar to what we're going to do next. It's a regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And you usually start things off, but I'm gonna go first because I'm going to roll with Shohei Ohtani. This is like Shohei Ohtani's segment. So for my Pick One, I was just looking at the comps for these two cards. They're both valued around $25,000 to $30,000. Okay, first one is the 2018 Bowman Chrome Rookie Auto, the batting one, right? You just mentioned the orange one that sold for $200K. The batting one, blue. The blue, yes.
I knew it.
BGS 9510 Auto versus the 2018 Topps Chrome. I think I mentioned this card with another Pick One, but the Topps Chrome Gold Refractor PSA 10, valued between 25 and 30 as well.
Wow, I'm actually going with the Topps Chrome Gold PSA 10.
Okay,
like for me, maybe because I was always like, I remember when these cards came out, and I was just like, the pitching one's the one to get, and then the batting Bowman Chrome, because the pitching one comes from Bowman, so super tough pull. Like, we're talking majority paper, but Bowman Chrome is majority chrome, right? It comes out later, 8 months or 7 months after Bowman. So I've always had that instilled in my head that the Bowman Chrome batting image was always secondary, and then you got your Topps Chrome flagship, which actually I would say didn't take precedence over any of them because Ohtani cards were weird. They're very different than everybody else's first Bowmans, right? So with that said, I think the Topps Chrome 2018 is an underrated card, especially if you're talking about the colored. I do like both cards, don't get me wrong, but I think the Topps Chrome is more of a iconic card moving forward when time passes by. Because when people see it, they see, oh, there's two Bowman Chrome Ohtanis. Which one do you like better, the pitching or the hitting? And people don't know that, like, really they'll swing back and forth, but then they'll realize the pitching one's the go-to. And then Topps Chrome, with the brand being so strong, I would say Topps Chrome is a lot stronger than Bowman Chrome from a rookie auto perspective.
Sure.
Right? So that's what you have, is you have the rookie auto of Shohei Ohtani and Bowman Chrome versus Topps Chrome rookie auto. I think as a brand, the Topps Chrome brand is stronger from rookie auto, and the gold is a huge upgrade, numbered to 50 plus a PSA 10.
Right.
I'm going to go with Topps Chrome Gold PSA 10.
Man, this is boring. We're agreeing on a lot of things today. I'm going with the Topps Chrome Gold as well, so we could battle it out. But yeah, you know, like like, if you're a loyal listener, you know I keep saying this, but I had that base Topps Chrome autograph card, and I just that more visually appealing to me. The close up of, you know, him swinging the bat, and then
DC thinks so too.
Yeah, he sold it too. So he sold his early as well. So I sold way early. He sold early. That's yeah. Yeah, like I think hard to believe, but I think just Topps Chrome rookie autos for stud players are still undervalued, right? The gold and the blue version of the Bowman Chrome, like, it's that being on par in terms of the value, it's crazy to
it's
me.
crazy.
So I think the play in even terms of value wise, I think Topps Chrome Gold wins out. So that's why I choose that. All right, your turn.
All right, we're gonna stick with baseball, and two young 20-year-old, 21-year-old battling it out right now. San Diego obviously won their wild card, and Milwaukee's kind of like in the mix. Churio had a massive day yesterday, and by the time this airs, they could be out. So that might be a determining factor. But as of right now, both young studs, Jackson Merrill and Jackson Churio, have been battling it out, and it's been fun. Churio went off yesterday. I have big hopes with Churio. I call him the next Acuna, or at least closest to that. Whereas Jackson Merrill is an absolute stud. Like, this guy, is going to be the future of baseball as well. But the interesting story, just really quick, maybe some people already know this, but some people don't. Jackson Merrill's Bowman first chrome. So he was in a situation where he didn't have an auto in his first chrome. Right? So his first chrome was actually a picture of, it's not even a picture of himself.
I know this one.
It's a guy by the name of Isaac Fry who hasn't even played professional baseball. We're talking, this was taken at a high school event. Yeah. The announcer said it was Jackson Merrill. The photographer went and captured this guy, Isaac Fry. And hilarious. His first Bowman chrome image is of him right-handed, and it's not even Jackson Merrill.
Right.
So there's that story, but his auto came in the set after. So Jackson Merrill's Bowman first auto doesn't have a first logo on it. Okay. But it is an image of him. Not that matters, but it is that. Like, there's no first logo on it. So 2022 Bowman Chrome Jackson Merrill Atomic Auto, a PSA 10. Okay? Atomic Autos at a 100. I know you don't like it. I'm a fan of Atomic Autos. Low numbered. I think they look fabulous. $950.
Oh, that's
which
good.
I think is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Okay? Compare that to Jackson Churio's first Bowman. This has a first logo. Right? We're going to go with the speckle refractor, which I know you don't like as well. Number to $299, a PSA 10.
Yeah.
It sold for $12.99.
$12.99. Wow.
$12.99 versus $950 on the Atomic Jackson Merrill. But the Jackson Merrill's technically not a first. So I don't know. Like, I know some people make a big deal out of it. I think guys like back in the history, like Eloy Jimenez was a perfect example of, he didn't have a first chrome. And I know that was an issue. His first auto wasn't a first chrome auto. It didn't have that logo, but he had a first chrome. And there's other guys that, like Denzel Clark, for instance, is another guy that had a first chrome base, but no first chrome auto. It came in the set after. So does that really matter to you guys or to you?
I think this one's easy because to answer that question specifically, it personally doesn't matter to me. Like, I sometimes even forget about it, to tell you the truth, as long as I know that this is his auto. First for him. Yeah. For that player. Right. So I'm going Jackson Merrill. I mean, like, isn't he favored to win other than Paul Skeens? But I think Paul Skeens is going to win it. Paul Skeens is going to win it. But he was up before Skeens was called up. He was like leading. For sure. So he had an amazing year. I think, I feel like at the beginning of the season, I heard some other baseball analyst, not a baseball card guy, but baseball analyst who was on probably Sports Card Nonsense, talking about his favorite pick for this coming year was Jackson Merrill. So I always remember that. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting pick because, Holiday got the attention, and then speaking of another Jackson, but Merrill panned out really well this year, and I think he's going to be a great player moving forward too. So, plus with the value, I was surprised at the cost you mentioned that it sold for. So it's an easy one for me, Jackson Merrill. Although, you know what, I was looking at a 2024 Topps Chrome Jackson Churio Blue Refractor on auction. I'm like, oh, maybe, it's color match kind of. And I think Chorio's kind of underrated in a weird way because Holiday still, his cards are
Right.
still more than Chorio for some reason. And I'm like, maybe I could steal one, but it's sold for over $1,000. Like, what? I guess people are getting on, people are coming back on the Chorio train, to the bandwagon. So
I mean, he had a phenomenal season too. And I think, and he's a year younger than Jackson Merrill, so he's still 20, which is crazy. And here's the thing with Jackson Chourio, and I've been following Chourio all through the minors ever since he was, in the Dominican Summer League or came over here rookie ball. He's always been a slow starter, and I think that's the reason why his card prices have been kind of wild, because I think a lot of expectations as a 20-year-old, people were expecting a lot right out the gate. And I think he struggled for a bit. And then just typical. If you look at his numbers, even in the minors, they're so consistent. Like year after year, they're very, very similar. Even in the minors and to this year, 21 home runs. He 20-20 this year in his rookie season as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
But he's been doing that same thing in the minors as a 19-year-old, as an 18-year-old. And the numbers are very similar. So I always see Jackson Chourio as a late starter. And same with Juan Soto, guys like Juan Soto. So what happens then is when we buy in spurts of timing, so we get ready for spring training, and then the hype becomes on Jackson Chourio again. What happens is he performs so slow at the beginning, his prices tank, right? And then they take so much time to catch up. And right now we're at that time now that people are like, oh yeah, Jackson Chourio was that guy, right? But it's like kind of like too late. So I do think Chourio is a buy in general. I think he's gonna, like, an off season for me would be like, you know what, I'm looking to, but that does worry me that he's such a slow starter always. So you're not gonna, I think, get that initial bump. Maybe next year is different, but that's what I've noticed. With that being said, I think, Jackson Chourio is more expensive than Jackson Merrill right now. Maybe I was wondering, maybe it's because people don't like that it's not a first chrome auto on Jackson Merrill. I remember his prices never reached bonkers like Jackson Holiday, Jackson Chourio prices ever. And they're just a slow, steady climb because of his season this year. But I think the better buy is the Jackson Merrill. But I think long term, I'm buying Chourio over Merrill, but you can't go wrong with either, to be honest. So in this case, the 950 for an Atomic PSA 10 is a way better buy than a 1300 Speckle PSA 10. So I'm just sheerly basing it off of the better value and better buy at this time based on last sale. So I'm going to go with Jackson Merrill as well.
Nice. Jackson Merrill sweet. Totally agree. Like right now is a perfect time to buy like a low number Jackson Merrill card because the value is absolutely there.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Personally and selfishly, for Jackson Chourio, do you think he can take that next step? Do you think he's a 30 home run guy?
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. I think 100% he's a 30 home run guy. He's going to probably show it, when he matures. You got to remember, for me, guys peak at 29. So there's a lot of failure that you have to deal with in order for you to get there. And that's what usually happens. You see it with all the young studs. First year, they actually have a pretty decent year. You go back to Tatis, you go back to even Keston Hiura, you go back to, all those guys in 2019, 2018. They've had enormous success at the beginning because there's not a lot of video on them. There's not a lot of studying where their weaknesses. And then they go through a period of getting punched in the face because, people study them more. Bo Bichette's going through it right now. He had a pretty bad season this year, but that doesn't discredit his talent or what he's going to be in the future. It's just a learning process. So I think Jackson Chourio is going to go through that phase, but I think he's a 30 home run guy. I think he's a 30-30 guy. If he fills out the way he's capable of, I think he's a 40-40 guy. Right. Wow, so that's why, that's the type of hope I see in Jackson Chourio. I'm hoping that he runs more than he did this year. I think he could be a 40 stolen base guy and the power will eventually catch up. So yeah, I think he's a 40-40 guy. I don't think Jackson Merrill's a 40-40 guy though.
Right. Okay. I want to go Jackson Chourio shopping in the off season. So that's all I needed to know.
No, I'm high on Jackson Chourio. Yeah.
No, for sure. All right. Well, thanks again to all our listeners for listening to another episode of Cars to the Moon. We appreciate you guys, and we'll have a brand new episode for you next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.